Good evening, and welcome to the first of what will be two training sessions this week for students using SCM Globe in your courses. And what I think we want to do, I think probably the best use of everyone's time, is we have one of your instructors online with us, Frank Scheer, and Frank, you have an open microphone as well. Say hi, Frank. Frank, can you hear us? Well, all right, he'll catch up with us. And then Steve Koji, who is with SCM Globe, is also online. Say hi, Steve.
Good evening.
And my name is Mike Hugos. So we have presently muted everyone except for Frank and myself and Steve. But what we want to do is we'll be monitoring the chat window, and then we can also open up people's mics if you want to. We'll see how that goes. We want to keep this informative and really focused on your specific questions. I'm guessing a lot of you have had a little bit of time to go through the Getting Started section, which is right there on the home page. And if you want to take a look at that, you click on that blue button that says Start Here. Or when you're in the application, you can get at it by clicking on Help Screen. But it'll take about 15 to 30 minutes. Highly recommended. It will get you off to a great start. There's plenty more to learn, but you don't need to learn it all at once, and you can learn it as you go. I would also point out that the fifth link here on the bottom of that Getting Started page is called Frequently Asked Questions, and they are frequently asked. So chances are we don't know which one of you in particular, but we do know that a certain percentage of you, a significant percentage of you, will run across one or more of these 6 questions if the last 5 years of experience are any indicator. And with just a few minutes, you can get some answers that will otherwise probably create a lot of confusion and frustration, and we don't want you to get frustrated. All right. So maybe the first thing here is, can we talk about are there some specific questions that people have that we will review right now? Otherwise, and I think the best way to do that is to just go through the chat window, type in questions, and let's just take a minute here and see what kind of questions you can address the questions to everybody, because I'm sure a lot of you have the same questions. So go ahead and let's see what kind of questions show up. You can always do a Go ahead. Was that Frank?
That's Frank.
Yeah, I finally got connected, and I just wanted to say good evening to everybody. I'm pleased that there's such a good turnout, and I want to thank you, Michael, for going ahead and running the webinar for us. So
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I will say, in all sincerity, Frank, you and your students are a major factor in the way that the feedback that we've gotten from you guys over the last several years has made a big impact on the way that the application is designed and the way it operates, and we continue to look for your feedback.
Well, that's great. Well, and I expect this spring term will be just as good to everybody. Good. I just want to let you know that I did mention to everybody that it was a requirement and highly desirable at that to go ahead and review the SCM Globe user manual and some of the videos that are online and so on. So, you know, my hope is, like yours, that people come here prepared with questions about how the simulation works, and in the meantime, I'm sure you'll step through most of the major features just so that they know what's going on.
Yes, we will. And it's amazing how fast the time will fly by. So I want to make sure that we answer your pressing questions, especially for people who've gone through the basics and are now going, yeah, I get the big picture, but this one specific thing is totally confusing. I don't get it. Please explain it. That's what we really want to hear.
Okay, well we do have a first question. I think you'll want to address it, but perhaps a little further down the road here.
All right.
Karen is interested in how to analyze the data that they pull from the system to meet the supply chain goals.
All right.
So
yeah,
that is definitely something we'll address, Karen. However, I think Mike will probably want to step through a couple of preliminary things.
Well, let's do this. We'll get to that like in the next few minutes. And what we'll do is we'll start. I think a lot of you are using, certainly if you're in Frank's class, you're going to be using the Cincinnati Seasonings case study. Once you're in your account management screen, if you click, and always you'll look to the upper right corner of the screens to see your navigation buttons. If you click on the View Library, you can view the library, and you'll see right there is Cincinnati Seasonings. Click on that Import button to import a copy of that from the library into your account. Name it anything you want. You can name it, I'll just call it Cincy Seasonings. And then you click on Save, so that will save a copy of it to your library. You'll see that you could, if I click on that, I could start editing right now, but I get confused, so I'm just a simple-minded guy. I'm going to go back to my account screen, and then I'll do everything from the account screen. There it is, right there at the top, called Cincy Season. You notice your account screen is broken into two parts. There are your active supply chain models at the top, and I've got a lot of stuff I'm working on. And then at the bottom of the account screen are your save states, which are copies of the supply chains that you're working on that you save from time to time as you're working on them, because sometimes you'll go off in a direction that doesn't work out, doesn't make any sense, or it just doesn't seem like a good idea at the time, but it doesn't work out. And then you always want to be able to save or restore from your save states. So that's what you can do there. Now what I'm going to do is, and also it's important to remember, there are only 3 screens in the whole app: your account management screen, and then your edit screen, and your simulate screen. A lot going on in all those screens, but it's only 3 screens. You're not flipping back and forth between hundreds of different screens. So we're going to click on the edit button to edit the supply chain model that we just loaded. And basically what that means is it will give us a picture of how that supply chain is created. While that's loading, I'm also going to click on the help button. So when you're in the application like we are here, if you click on the help button, it will open up a new browser tab, and you'll have the whole online guide, a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. It's a great idea to go over to case studies here and click on Cincinnati Seasonings. It's going to give you a really good, and the other group of you will be working on the supply chain called collaborative supply chains. There it is right there. You can click on collaborative. You'll get an introduction to collaborative. Let's go back to Cincinnati. And so here is the introduction. It's going to get you started, and then your instructor will guide you on from there. So do look at those things. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead. In the Getting Started section, you will have noticed that we explained that all supply chain models are built from a combination of only 4 entities, and here they are on the right-hand side in this accordion menu, and they are products, facilities, vehicles, and routes. There's only one product in Cincinnati Seasonings, just to keep things simple. The other case studies start to get progressively more challenging. That one product in Cincinnati Seasonings is right here. It's called the Spicy Cube. You could think of it as a shipping case that the company sends to its stores that is composed of a combination of the spices and seasonings that the company makes. We can see what its price is. We can see how much it weighs, and we can see what its volume is when we ship it. I'm going to close that window. And then you have the 3 other entities, which are facilities, and you can see them all right here. If you click on one of them, like if I click on that Fort Wayne store, a window will open. I'll see a little information about that. You can go through that on your own, but that will become very familiar if it isn't already. If I click on a facility where there are vehicles and delivery routes that originate from the facility, I'll see that here on the map. So I clicked on the DC, and you'll notice a lot of the delivery trucks, well, almost all the delivery trucks are based at the DC, and we can see the delivery routes that they run there in blue. Here in the dialog box is some information about the facility. Since this facility does have vehicles attached, I can click on vehicles, or if I want to attach a vehicle to that facility, I would do the same. Anyway, I see that I have 4 vehicles. If I click on them, I will see some information about the vehicle itself. There it is. And I will see, look, there's the route that that vehicle is taking. If I click on truck number 3, for instance, I can see that that is going out from the DC out to the Indianapolis store. If I click on 4, I can see that it is a multi-stop route. It's going to Indy, up to Fort Wayne, and then back to the DC. And I can, once I have clicked on a vehicle, I can click on routes and see the 1 or more routes that that vehicle is running. If I click on this one, for instance, this multi-stop route here, I'm seeing it goes, first I'm seeing what its round trip time and distance is, and then I am seeing, here's the vehicle that's running that. It's truck number 4. It can carry 60 cubic meters, maximum carry weight of 8,000 kilograms, and I can see what it's doing is it's going to the Indy store, dropping off 20 of those cubes, then going on to Fort Wayne, dropping off 30, and then returning to the DC. So I've very quickly now taken a look through the 4 entities that create this supply chain. Now I'm going to go into the upper right corner there, click on that button that says simulation, and it will open another browser tab, which will be my simulation tab, or sim tab, as we call it when we really get into the lingo of running these simulations. So the sim tab shows, and you always know you're in the sim tab because you see the multicolored routes. The route segments now are shown in different colors. And I can now play this simulation. Again, I look in the upper right corner. I see that button that says play. I click on the play button, and it will start to play the simulation. Now, we have deliberately built some pitfalls into the simulations that you'll be using and that you'll encounter pretty quickly. Yeah, look, we encountered one right here. At the end of the second day, it says not enough storage capacity in Fort Wayne. I'm going to click on OK. And sometimes there will be multiple errors, but they will always show up down there in the lower right, so you can see what they are. And then a little dialog box opens up that shows me what was going on at the Fort Wayne facility at the moment when the error occurred. I can always open it up against that. I'm going to close that right now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage in an iterative process of trying stuff out and then running the simulations to see how well it performs. And in the trying stuff out sphere, you start by, the best answers are, what did you just read in the reading, or what did you just hear in the lectures or the conversation groups that you've been having? What is a relevant best practice that would start to answer some of these challenges? It will turn out that what you hear in your readings and lectures will also work really well in the simulations. I'm going to go back to what we're doing now is we're keeping these 2 tabs open. So I've got my sim tab, and now I click over here, and I've got I'm going to close these boxes. I've got my edit tab. So, and the reason we leave that sim tab open is I can always refer back to it and go, now what the heck was going on? Oh, right, not enough storage capacity. Okay, good. Now I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to edit that model. Now, if I want to redraw my supply chain model, sometimes, you get really busy in it. I can always click on the browser refresh. It'll just redraw my model. It's all there, but sometimes you want to see it all at once instead of in pieces. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think to myself, okay, what should I do? How should I change the model to respond to this problem? We advise at first, and again, part of the getting started section is a little section called how to work with case studies. And so you can look that up. But basically what we advise is go ahead and try stuff. Play around with it, and I do mean play. If you're not playing with it, you won't discover the things that you really need to stumble onto. So what I'm going to say at first is let's, as they say in business, throw money at this problem. We can always come back later to fine-tune, refine, make more efficient. So what I'm going to do, if my problem is that I ran out of storage space in Fort Wayne, I'm going to go to the Facilities tab. I'm going to click on the Fort Wayne store. I'm going to say, give that store more storage. If we got 850 cubic meters now, let's make it 1,600. How about that? Ought to fix that. Now, obviously, my rent cost is going to go up, but we'll deal with that later. The first thing is, and I'm going to click update. It won't update unless you click update. So the first thing we want to do is get this supply chain to run for 30 days. So I've made a change there. I'm going to go back to my SIM screen. I'm going to click on reload that supply chain because now I want to synchronize the changes I just made to the supply chain model and then run the sim again, and let's see what happens. So I'm going to click on play. Like I said, we deliberately put 3 pitfalls in here, which you can respond any way you want. The way to think of it is this is certainly not a multiple choice test. This is a sandbox, as they say. There are rules here that are basically governed by the way that the 4 entities interact with each other. But within those rules, and they're about as wide-ranging as they can be, you can do whatever you want. As you click through here, you can see, well, look at that. Like my on-hand in Louisville looks like it's not keeping up with demand. And sure enough, my on-hand in Louisville isn't keeping up with demand. Looks like at the end of day 7, we ran out of product at Louisville. So we had too much product up in Fort Wayne. We got not enough product in Louisville. I'm going to go back to my edit screen, and I'm going to, since I know that my delivery trucks that go down to deliver products to Louisville, or Louisville, as they say in Louisville, those trucks are based at the DC. So I'm going to click on the DC. And I'm going to find what, as I recall, there were 2 trucks there. I can find them by truck number 2. Yep, that goes down there. Truck number 3. Nope. Truck number 4. Nope. Truck number 1. Yep, that also goes down to Louisville. And I can see something about those trucks. In this case, it's a small truck. Truck number 1 is a small truck. We know that because the shipping volume of that spicy cube is 1 cubic meter, which we did just to kind of keep the math simple in this first case study. We could get 40 of those puppies into that truck if we fully loaded it. And truck number 2 also, I click on that. I see it is also a small truck. So even if I maxed out both trucks and sent them down there once a day, I would only get 80 down there. And when I look at my sim screen and I look at Louisville, I can see right here the demand is 100 per day. So I need to get more down there. Maybe what I'm going to do is I am going to change my little truck. If I click there on the type of vehicle, we got lots of vehicles, and they all behave differently as vehicles do. Airplanes, fly in a straight line. Ships follow water or rivers or canals. Trains follow railroad tracks. Trucks follow roads. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, how about a large truck? So we have default values here. I believe that you're all, you'll just be accepting these default values. People who use this software to model real supply chains, of course, can type over them. You can type over, if your large truck is not carrying 110 but actually carries 120, you could just type over and do that right there. Just type over it. We're going to leave all the defaults as is, and now I have updated truck number 2 now from a small to a large truck. I'm going to click on update, and now I'm going to click on the route that truck is running, which is a Cincy to Louisville, and I'm going to say, hey, instead of just dropping off 20 down there, we know that truck can carry 100 because it could go up to 110 actually. So let's just drop 100 down there. That'll do it. Now, if I tried to overload the truck too, I would run into some error flags. You can test that out on your own. And then I said to myself, hey, I already got 1 truck that looks like it can cover it. I don't need that other truck. What if we just get rid of that other truck? So here, Truck number 2, that's the big truck that we just upgraded. But truck number 1, that's the little guy. I don't need that little guy running down there. I'm going to save some money. I've got him highlighted. I'm going to click on the remove button there and remove him. So, yep, do that, remove that. And now we've made some changes. We're going to go back to our sim screen. And once again, we're going to click on reload that supply chain. And so you're starting to see a pattern here. You know, we try stuff, we run the simulation, we see what happens, we use the feedback, what we learned, the data that the simulation gave us to keep improving that supply chain, and then play it again, Sam. And right here, you know, we do think it's a good idea to kind of, supply chains are about flow. Take a note, supply chains are about flow. F-L-O-W. How does product flow through the supply chain from the manufacturer out through the distribution network and to the customers? That's what we're looking at, and we're trying to make that flow as smooth as we can, and we want to always meet customer demand. See, that's flat. We met customer demand there. We got a flat line. That's a good sign. We'll come back to that. Here, the on hand, what we're seeing here, we're meeting customer demand, but we're climbing. The inventory keeps climbing here on hand. That's inefficient. We'll get to that later. All right. Now it says not enough storage capacity at the seasonings factory. So this was the third and last of the deliberately planted pitfalls in this case study. But now what I've been showing is one way to approach it, but there are about a zillion other ways to approach it also. And I claim that what I'm doing here and showing you guys is competent, but I'm not sure it's brilliant. And you guys, we know that some of you will find better ways than what we're showing here. And that's what simulations are about, is trying stuff out. Because if it works well in the simulation, as in if it works well in this simulation, it will work well in the real world. This is not a game. This is, you could think of it as a game, but this is not just abstracted from reality to the point where it doesn't make any sense. So everything you learn and everything that works here in these simulations will work equally well in the real world. And now to the question about how do we analyze data. So we're now, we can see as I roll my cursor over the data points there in the on-hand graph, I can see at end of day 8 we had a problem, and here's that problem, not enough storage capacity in the factory. Also, when a simulation stops because it finds a problem, as in this case it did find a problem right there in the factory, or if it stops because you click on the stop button, this button here, export results to Excel, will pop up. If I click on that, and you can see right here, it will download, and it will download to any spreadsheet, not just Excel, Google Sheets, Apple Numbers, any spreadsheet in the world, as far as I know. Basically, it's downloading a CVS file. I'm using Excel here. If I click on this, I can see, I'm going to open up this spreadsheet. So what I can see, and we ran, the sim ran for 8 days. And what we're showing here is it's broken up into different, the sim data is broken up into different segments. The first segment is showing me my on-hand, product on-hand by day, by facility. And we can see, you know, there's what's on hand at the different facilities. So we're starting to not only visually see how the product flows through, but now the numbers are also showing us how the products are flowing through that supply chain. My demand, our demand in this model remains steady over the period of the simulation. So, but you can see what the demands are. You can see what is being produced. I can see what is coming into my facilities, what is going out of my facilities, and I get my information from my vehicles as well. So I'm going to close that. Now, obviously, as you can build also, you got this data here. We'll show you some templates that will use this data to produce profit and loss statements, but you can also, you know, put your own equations in there. Do anything you want. A spreadsheet is a marvelous envelope for data and allows you to manipulate it 7 ways from Sunday. So have at it. And there is, if I click on the help button, and I already have, and that's what's open here, there is a section that will go into a lot more detail than what we have time, or at least I don't want to ramble through it. You can probably read it faster than I can talk about it. But if I go there to the user guide, and there's several ways to find things. Everything is cross-referenced. We try to cross-reference as many ways as possible so you can stumble on stuff a lot of different ways. One way is if I go to supply chain modeling and sim techniques and I stumble my way down there to analyzing simulation data and click on that. This is also linked in through the introduction to the Cincinnati Seasonings case study as well. There is some information that will help you about, and we'll look at this online, but there's a lot of different types of data that is online. As we go down here, click on that, you can see some close-ups there. That is what you're going to start to see. Now this is from a case study that has multiple different kinds of products, but regardless of how many products you may have, this still means the same thing. Downward sloping lines mean not enough product being delivered to meet demand. Upward meaning the opposite, etc., etc. So, the key here is try to synchronize that product. In other words, flow, F-L-O-W. Try to get that product, have just enough to meet demand without more than you need building up, because, that's excess inventory. It's capital being tied up in product, and the finance people get really cranky about that when you let it get out of hand. So, as you also go down further in that analyzing simulation data, we have a discussion where I just showed you, here's, if I click on this screen, we can see a bigger picture. Here's what we did. We clicked on that button there. Let me move over. We clicked on that button there to do the download. We discuss here a little bit about the different kinds of data that you have, what you can do with it, and then we show you, and I don't know if it's, Frank, are you using this template in your class, this monthly profit and loss reporting template?
I haven't created a template. If it's in there, they do it. What I do want to mention, I may as well mention it now, is that I'm recommending that each week, that as people reach the conclusion for their solution for that week, that they do save not only a save state with that name, that simulation in their save states, but also that they create a comma delimited save file of data that can be pulled into Excel for analysis, because what I'll be asking people to do at the end is to compare where they started with where they ended up and some of the intermediate stops along the way of improvement, and also having a sheet like this that can be used for comparative analysis will be very useful. So I assume, maybe they always say, well, everybody knows what assume means, but
dangerous word.
I believe that you have this template, within the software, so yeah, it's easy enough for somebody to.
It's right here at the bottom of that page, the analyzing data page. There's the link and a little explanation about, how to download it, how to use it, how to look. Basically, when you download your sim data, you're cutting and pasting it. You can see right here. We have two tabs. One tab here has where you cut and paste the sim data, and then the first tab will take the data and produce the reports. I'm going to go back here, and at the bottom here is the link, and we have posted that in Google Docs. You don't need to ask me for edit privileges. You can just, if you click on this right here that says File, and then Download As, and download it as a Microsoft Excel or open document format, etc. So that is available, and then you can load it on your computer and do whatever you want, make any changes you wish. As you will notice that this particular template is only using these three stores and those factories in that DC. If you add more stores, it's a matter of just take a look at the data, at the logic there, the macros, and you can see how we read the sim data. So it's easy enough to plug in new stores as you expand your network. So There is one long-winded answer that gets to finally, hopefully, answer that question about that was asked earlier about simulating the data.
Okay, Mike, we have a
yeah,
we do have a second question now, and it's particular to this. It says, can you upload alternative model versions as .csv files, or is it export only?
You know, you've asked a question that is relevant to what we, the academic version of our software is an export-only version. The enterprise version of the software does allow for importation of CSV files, but this file that you'll be using in the academic version is already loaded with default values, and Frank, I believe you're telling your students just to accept the defaults. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. For Cincinnati seasonings and for ASCM 629, this is the first time that they're using a simulation software, so I'm really trying to keep it relatively simple. We'll try some specific tinkers. For example, this week, the only objective is just to get your simulation to run for 30 days without crashing, and whatever you need to do, as you mentioned earlier, Michael, you can add space, you can add vehicles, unlimited, whatever you need to do to keep it running. And then from that point on, week after week, we're making refinements to that.
Good, good. And so you can see where we are right now is there's this right here, this problem of we don't have enough storage space in the factory, and there's many ways to respond to that. You could expand the capacity of the factory. I'll give you a hint at some other potential ways to approach that. And again, this is for, as you start to become familiar with the simulation process and you start to look at the data available, for instance, if I click on vehicles, I can see here was my running vehicle costs. If I click on products, I can see where my products are building up in the supply chain. If I click on console, it's all the data we just downloaded into the spreadsheet. But one key thing that most any supply chain manager is going to keep a pretty close eye on is on-hand inventory at the various facilities that they're responsible for. And so when you see that upward sloping line, it means we're either making or delivering more than we need every day. If I look at that factory, I can see, yeah, no wonder we ran out of space at the factory. We're still running up a lot there. If I look at, for instance, where's the data, where is that, you know, in the flow of products in our supply chain, this relatively simple supply chain, although certainly not unrealistic, but what we got is one factory, downtown Cincinnati. And let me also point out, you can switch over to the satellite view, which I think is a great idea, but I'm kind of a map freak. Although supply chains live in the world, and the closest representation that you could put onto a screen or inside a book is a map, not a spreadsheet. And as you zoom in here, you see here is the Cincinnati Seasonings facility. This is obviously not a metal bending factory, but it is a food processing factory. It is located in an industrial park. We can see that, which is where you would expect a factory to be located. It's not just generally somewhere in Cincinnati. And it is also next to a freight rail yard, which is cool. And if I look at the different routes that you know are connecting the factory into the rest of the supply chain, I'm going to switch back to the map view just to clarify that picture. And I noticed that, oh look, out here's the DC right there. And where is the DC? Well, let's see. I just read something or heard something in the last lecture. Put your distribution centers on the outskirts of town so you avoid the heavy downtown traffic, and locate them at transportation nodes. What the heck is a transportation node? Oh, right. It's a place where major highways cross, where other modes of transportation are also available. I am seeing here major highways crossing. I am seeing rail yards. Let's flip back to the satellite view now. Okay, we all have top security clearance to see this kind of intelligence. I hope you appreciate that. And what we're looking at is, well, I'll be darned, there's the Cincinnati Seasonings facility. It's right there, and it kind of looks like it's where it's supposed to be. If I look around at what's going on in this area, I can see other distribution-related activities. If I look right across the street there, I mean, there are a lot of 18-wheelers and trailers. So this is obviously where you could expect a company like Cincinnati Seasonings to have their distribution center. And so what our supply chain flow is looking like is we're making it at the factory. We have a shuttle truck that is moving it to the DC, and then from the DC we have the delivery trucks which are taking it out to the factory. So what if, and I'll switch back to map again, what if, and we can see that here, you know, in the online data. There's a lot of online data. So let's see, I'm going up at the factory, but I'm going down to DC. One of the ways I could solve this problem is move more product more quickly from the factory to the DC. We got plenty of room at the DC, and we're going to have a problem at some point if we don't do that anyway, because we're not keeping up. The trucks are pulling it out of the DC faster to deliver to stores than it is being refreshed from the factory. So that, and okay, well, hey, Mike, how do I do that? How do I move more products more quickly? I'll put that question out to the group. Does anyone have any thoughts? How would you move more products from the factory to the DC so that I don't run into this problem of building up too much product at the factory? Comments? And what ideas? Go ahead and type them into that comment window.
Larger vehicle,
yes.
Bigger trucks.
Yep, that's one way to do it. What is another way? Larger vehicles, definitely another way. More trucks?
More
yes.
trucks.
You could add more trucks, yes. How about yet a third way? Yes, more frequent delivery. Exactly. You're getting it. More frequent ones. Yes. Or some combination of all those. So you see what I mean by sandbox. This is a sandbox. And now there are many ways to get this puppy to run for 30 days, but then the central challenge, perhaps the central challenge of supply chain management is, on one hand, you want your supply chain to be responsive. That means always have enough product to meet customer demand, you know, all the time at all the facilities. On the other hand, you want to be efficient, and that means meet customer demand at the lowest operating cost, which is facility rent and transportation, and the lowest amount of on-hand inventory. Those are two competing demands, and you're always kind of trying to find that edge where you do both at the best, you know, for the best operating performance, and it's a continuous balancing act. So the computer here, our SIM application will do the calculations for you, and sometimes people say, well, gee, at work we have a computer that tells us what to do. Number one, I doubt it. And number two, if computers get to the point where they start telling us what to do, I would say, whoa, we're all in big, big trouble, because, hey, they won't need us. And the truth of the matter is that it's that combination of computers to do the calculation and people to do the thinking that I think is very powerful. Computers will optimize a given design. You can come up with this design right here, and if nothing changes, the problem is the world is always changing. But if nothing changes, a computer can optimize this thing down to, you know, the last 4 digits. And that's great. But the world is always changing. So beware of optimizing. Plenty of smarter people than I have said that. Because as the world keeps changing, if you're relying on some clunky computer system or slow process to quote optimize, what you'll find is that last week or last month's optimal solution, because of changes this week, can be an absolute disaster. So what we're suggesting is that you keep coming up with ideas that might make it work better, run the sim, and then fine-tune your ideas as you get feedback from the sim. So it's a good way to work. It is the way most companies work. And again, everything you're learning here is directly applicable to what you already are encountering if you're already in the business, or soon will encounter when you get into logistics and supply chain management.
Mike, in the interest of time, we still have plenty of time, but perhaps you want to just go over quickly how they can share a JSON. Because it might have been one part of the answer to his question up there.
Right. While you're getting ready to do that, Michael, that's a good suggestion, Steve.
Yeah.
Let me just explain how the weekly conferences work. So everybody is doing the simulation this week. During week 3, you'll report out on what you did during week 2. In other words, next week, after you've had a chance for a week to go ahead and try all the different things that you want to, you'll get into a discussion with your classmates. The way I'm approaching this, many of the UMUC classes have groups. They'll have 3 or 4 people that work on various roles. in the ASCM 629, I'm considering the Cincinnati seasoning to be a group project, but the entire class is the group, not just 3 or 4 people and having multiple groups within the class. So not only when you post your results, and even if you turn out that you don't have results or you experience problems, don't be bashful about raising those topics in the discussion, because what you'll find is somebody else has tried something that's been successful. You'll share from that experience, and you'll be able to learn how to do that simulation better, both for the present week as well as future times, and people will learn from you. So that's the general vision. And so what Michael's going to focus on is this JSON file. There's a way that you save your states so that you can share them with others, so that they can click on it by importing it into the SCM Globe software, and you can actually see exactly how they ran their simulation. So I'll turn it back over to you, Michael.
So what I've just done is I've opened up I went to the online guide, and I opened up, I went to user manual, and again, this is linked at the bottom of every case study description, such as Cincinnati Seasonings. There will be a link to how to download and share the links are always in blue. Let's see, where do we find this one here? Download and share. Here you go. Oh man, make me look like a fool. Here we go. Download and share supply chains, or of course you can get at it. So I'll just click on that. Or you can get it by going through the main menu. A lot of ways to handle that. And so what I'll show you right now is also shown right here. Actually, we use some screenshots from the collaborative supply chain, but they all work the same. So I'm going to go. I went back to my edit screen there. Now I'm going to go to, from the edit screen, there's a couple ways we can do this. Edit screen, I can click on options, and I can click on that right there where it says save, and it will save a copy to my save states. Or I can go to my account, and this is actually it's probably easier when you want to change the name. You want to save it at the end of week 1 and call this Cincy Seasonings week 1, and then at the end of 2 you want to save one called Cincy Seasonings week 2, etc. So if I go to my account management screen and I click again on the save button, it will open a window and let me name it. So here I could call it I'll call it Cincy week 1 solutions. Say, that's how I got when I got that guy to run for 30 days. I'm going to call that okay, good. And I'll call that Cincy week 1 solution. I'll save it. So either way, now I have created a save state, and then I can go down if I scroll down to the bottom of my save state file. There they are. There's that Cincy week 1 solution. So I could either now I could restore that if I then proceed to make a real mess out of week 2. I could restore it back there, or I can download and save it. So if I click on download and save, it downloads it to my own personal PC, and notice that the file ends with a .json, so we call them JSON files. It's a popular file format for sharing this kind of information. And then all I need to do is write an email, like if I'm going to send it to somebody I'm working with, or if I'm going to send it to Frank or any other person who is using SCM Globe, I would then just attach that JSON file to an email and send it to them. They would then download it from their email, and then when they log on, you can't open this file unless you're logged into SCM Globe, but when you log on in your account screen, you'll notice here is a button. Now I could either drag and drop it right there like that. I won't do that. I'll leave that there because sometimes you don't have it visible on your browser. But if I just click that upload save file, then, and I know that I dropped it in my downloads, so if I click on downloads, I will see it as soon as it sorts it. And so here it is, it's right there, Cincy Week 1 solution, and now if I click on that, it's going to upload it. File, it says right there, file uploaded. And I will, when it's uploaded again, what I'll see is there it is at the bottom of my my save states. I need to restore that if I want to run it myself, so I click on the restore button. It will restore it, and I will look then at the bottom of my active, the bottom of the list of my active supply chain models. There it is right there. If I click on edit, I am off and running. So maybe I'm working in a group of 3 or 4 or 5 people, and we're all working on it, separately, and somebody in the group really comes up with a terrific idea. I could then share it with the other people in my group. They could all then import it, as I have just done, and they could check it out, and they could go, yeah, that's pretty cool, Mike, but hey, what about this? And I got another idea. And so people can edit this model, improve it, keep building on it, send it around again, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how you download and share and collaborate on developing supply chain models. More questions?
While you're looking for questions, Michael, I'll just mention that just so that people know, the content organization in ASCM 629 is set up so that the first week we looked at what a supply chain was, and then this current week we're looking at what procurement activities interface with supply chains. But then the next few weeks we'll focus in turn, they'll look at manufacturing, then we'll look at transportation, we look at warehousing, and then we look at inventory management. And so Michael had mentioned much earlier that what we try to do is arrange the course material so that it's roughly overlaying with some of the assignments that we're doing week by week. And so that's the course organization prior to the midterm exam, that we're looking at the basic elements of the supply chain, and then within SCM Globe, you're actually able to practice what the impacts are of some of those features.
And again, I think actually, Frank, your program director, Frida Powell-Bell, put it very succinctly when she said that simulations they demonstrate that people who come out of this program not only learned the material in the readings and the lectures, but are able to apply it in highly accurate simulations to solve real problems, which is a whole nother level in learning. It's, as they say, it's not what you know, but what you can remember when you need it. And by practicing in simulations, you're practicing what you know and making it, kind of burrowing it ever deeper into your understanding of the profession that you all are pursuing to some degree or other, which is the fine and noble profession of logistics and supply chain management.
Right, you learn by doing.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to explore as many possibilities as you can in the time you have, because it will make you more familiar with all of your alternatives, and those alternatives will need to be found in the real world at times.
So one of the things, as you look through the introduction, the online introduction to the case study, the first challenge is what we just talked about here, which is, as Frank said, make it run for 30 days. Do whatever you feel you need to do to make it run for 30 days. Now, and maybe what we'll do is we got to have a little bit more time. We'll go into the second challenge, which is now, congratulations, you got it to run for 30 days. Now, hey, the company's doing well. We're expanding our network of stores. Add more stores and still, of course, keep the supply chain running. And then just a little peek at challenge number 3, which we won't get to in this session, but which you can imagine is, okay, now lower your transportation operating costs, and reduce on-hand inventory while still keeping the supply chain running, the extended supply chain running for 30 days. Now, so you're experiencing a relatively simple supply chain, but you begin to realize that as we approach how this supply chain really works, there's a lot going on, even in a simple supply chain, let alone, a much more complex supply chain. And what we'll do right now is we'll just take a look at adding a new facility. We see here that the VP sales says, hey, we know where we're going to open the store in Chicago. We just signed a lease on that one. The second store is going to be in Columbus. We're not quite sure. It's somewhere up there in that northwestern side, that area where, what is it, route, right here, where route, I-270 and Route 35 intersect, which is obviously going to be a place where there are, guess what, a lot of shopping malls and et cetera, et cetera. So what we're going to do first with the facility where we have the exact address, and right here it is. It's 1840 North Claiborne Avenue. I am in Chicago right now as we speak, not too far away from that store on North Claiborne Avenue. So this is kind of cool. I'm just going to copy that address right now. I'm going to go back to my edit screen. In the edit screen, there is a search location box up in the upper left corner. Again, all that's in the getting started, all that sort of screen orientation. But so I'm just going to, boom, type it right in there, paste it right in there. There it is. It'll, here's Google suggesting what Google does. Yep, you're right, Google, take me there. Right now there happens to be a Trader Joe's there, but hey, Cincinnati Seasoning's coming soon. And the importance of this is that I'm going to switch the satellite view, pull back a little bit. I see the actual location. Again, this isn't just generally a store somewhere in Chicago, wherever the heck that is. This is a store right there at 1840 North Claiborne Avenue, and here is the facility. And why do I care about that? Because I'm a logistics guy, and I know that now I'm going to have to deliver product to this store on a regular basis to make sure we meet demand, and then also try to do so at the lowest possible cost, which is the essential contradiction and tension that runs all supply chains. So the question will be, well, how can I get product up there? What should I do? Can I send a big truck, a small truck? And the answer is, I didn't build. We don't have a lot of logic here in the system that will slap your hand every time you try to do something creative. But use your common sense, which is of course the most uncommon sense of all. And I look at a picture and I see, look, hey, there's a big truck pulling out of that loading dock. It looks like an 18-wheeler to me. And if I can look at some of the other, like, where is this? This is in an industrial section of town. I mean, there's some big streets here. If it was packed in a little residential community, you sure as heck know they wouldn't let you drive an 18-wheeler down one of those little streets. But here, yeah, I can get an 18-wheeler in there, and I can see that the loading dock has the capability of handling it. If I zoom in on a facility, some other facilities, say I picked a town in a dense neighborhood down in the loop in the middle of the city, well, no, they're not going to let you drive a big 18-wheeler, down a busy city center street. So you're going to have to come up with smaller delivery vehicles, and that's a whole different challenge. And you'll be challenged to do that in different locations as you go through this case study. But I can see right now that I'm going to be able to send an 18-wheeler up there. So what I'm going to do to add this new facility is I'm going to go to the Facilities tab. And then what do you think I should do? Oh, yeah, maybe I'll just click on that new button because it's a new facility. I'm going to type in Chicago store. And I'm going to go here to the drop-down box, the types of facilities. I'm going to click on store. I'm going to accept the defaults. But wait, hey, wait a minute. I recall, let's see, it said here, the Chicago store demand will be 100, quantity on hand will be 300, storage capacity will be 500. Looks like I need to do some modification. Okay, that's good. My quantity on hand here. Now I have to add product. I have to assign product to that facility, or of course, why would I even have a facility if it doesn't have products? So I'm going to, now if I had multiple products in my case study, they would all see that there in the drop down. I only have one, so that's there. But my demand, not 70, it was 100 a day. And we were going to open that store with 300 on hand. So let's do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type add, and that adds that product to this facility. Now, if I just click on save right away, it'll say, hey, wait, put that facility on the map. I always forget. So there it is. It's that store right there. I'm going to click on it, and presto, there is the store icon. There's my Chicago store. Now I'm going to click save. It will save that facility. I've now added that facility to my supply chain model. I'm going to click back to the map view. And now the question is, I got to get products up there. And we're closing in on the end of the hour, but I will very quickly demonstrate that. I'm going to, now depending on where I want to base this truck, say, I could say, I'm going to base the truck up in Chicago and then have it run down to maybe the Fort Wayne store. We got a lot of product in Fort Wayne. I'll pull it out of Fort Wayne. I can do whatever the heck I want. What I'm going to do, just because it's more of a traditional thing that traditional people do, doesn't mean it's the right answer, especially as things change, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that truck at the DC where the other trucks are. I am going to, so I've clicked on the DC, I click on vehicles. We don't have a vehicle running up there now. I could assign that delivery route to one of the vehicles that are already there. I could extend a delivery route from one of the vehicles, like maybe this one that runs up to Indy could then continue on and run on up to Chicago. I have to look at the trucks. Are they big enough? There's some pros and cons to be weighed here. It would obviously be cheaper if I use an existing vehicle, but hey, maybe what I'm going to do right now, because I can always come back later and change it, is I'm going to make a new truck. So I'm going to click on new. I'm going to call this truck, I'm going to call it the Chicago truck. I could make it an airplane. You could make it an airplane. It could be like a helicopter, for instance, or it could be an airship, or it could be an airliner, or anything you want. You could assign it a ship. The model wouldn't prevent you, but of course, anyone who looked at your model would go, wow, man, ships can't travel on roads. And so since there is no waterway between Cincinnati and Chicago, people would probably think that you were incompetent if you did that, but the model won't prevent you. We're going to just make it be a large truck because there are plenty of ways a large truck could do that. A large truck could carry, we know that it can carry the daily demand. We know the daily demand is 100. We can fit it into a large truck. My delay between departures, maybe I make my delay between departure be every 24 hours, like, about once a day. So I'll do that. I'm going to update that now, and then I would also have to assign a route to that new truck. So I'm going to click on new. I am going to call this the Cincy to Chicago. And I could send that truck to any of the facilities that we already have defined in our model. The store is where I want to go, so I've selected Chicago store. I'm going to click add stop to the route. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to pick what looks like the best route, but maybe you know something we don't. And so we're leveraging the Google capability that picks out routes. You can drag and drop if you want to change it. It's kind of tricky. You could get that little ball right there and pull it out. I sometimes have to zoom in a bit and like maybe I'm having a hard time grabbing that little guy right there, pulling him out. We are not, and I see we're crowding up on the hour, but you get the idea. I can drag and drop that route, and it will go to anywhere. I can maybe make it go around Indy if there's a lot of construction happening or whatever. I'll just accept the route right now that has suggested. Now I need to add, again, I need to add products to the route. Why have a route if you're not delivering product? Again, the product that the only one we have is the spicy cube. I'm going to say deliver 100. That's what the daily demand was. I could also pick up. If there are other products, I could do pickups. Again, that's not relevant in this particular case study. I'm going to say add, and now that looks good. I'm going to click update. And so now if I refresh and look at this supply chain model now, I've enhanced the supply chain model by adding a new facility, a new vehicle, and a new route. And so obviously that is going to affect the way that the overall system, known as a supply chain, will work. And again, I go back to my sim screen. I click on reload that supply chain, and you might guess we'll get a different result now because we've changed the model. So you would expect that. Now the question is, well, hey, how is that going to run? Is it going to really do what I hoped it would do? So I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to click on the screen refresh. For some reason, did not just pick up my new edition. Why did it not just pick up that new edition? Sometimes in these browser-based apps, you just never know. I can also click on the simulation screen, and it will also do the same thing. And here we see it did pick it up. The problem is if I keep doing it all the time, I'll get hundreds of tabs open, and the more tabs that are open, the slower it will run. We talk about that as one of the frequently asked questions. So anyway, I have got that, and now I'm going to click on, I'll make it run fast, really fast, and I'm going to click on play. So there you have it, and you can see what's going on now. And again, you click through, you're seeing what's happening. And so, hey, we ran out of storage capacity in the factory, so that same old problem came back to haunt us. But you've probably seen, yeah, I get it now. I get it. Let me just go. Any other questions? Frank, do you have any closing words?
Well, I'm waiting for you to have your classic line. The key focus is to have fun. We all recognize that this can seem very intimidating, and there are some people who are more adept at computer-based applications than others. Don't let you feel like you're sinking and not able to swim. Your support group is your other classmates in the discussion conferences. All I'm asking everybody to do is make your best effort. Whether you succeed or not, you're going to produce results, and you're going to learn from those results, and that's what success is all about for SCM 629. So thanks for joining us tonight, and Michael and Steve, I certainly appreciate your support.
All right. Well, and likewise. So again, if you're having technical issues, you can send us an email or you can submit a help ticket. We don't want to get in between you and Frank. So, questions that are relative to the course, please don't ask. But if there are technical problems, that's what we're here for. Like I say, we're going into our 5th year. We have in the past, students have discovered bugs. We always want to hear about bugs because then we'll fix them really fast. And we also like to hear your thoughts about how to make this easier to use. So, Steve, do you have any wrap-up comments?
No, like Frank said, have fun, explore freely, and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, actually, and also Frank's words of wisdom are in the Cincinnati Seasonings case study, or maybe it was in the how to work with right here. It's in a couple places. Here's one of them at the bottom of the Cincinnati Seasonings. What you learned from case studies and simulations, and this is Frank's explanation that he put together actually a couple years ago. I always thought it was very accurate. At first, it might feel kind of awkward, like when I tried to take ballroom dancing classes with my wife. It felt really awkward. Frank is comparing this to a line dance, which I think is pretty cool. But you're all going to feel like these dudes here, and after a while, you are going to be these pros here on stage looking cool. So have fun.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.